We wouldn't miss the startup world when talking about e-commerce. And now we have a special guest in this area, Carlo Calimon. He is founder and CEO of Startup Village, Mobcard, and numbers of other entrepreneurial ventures with a strong focus on e-commerce. He has really dedicated his life, I guess you would say, to developing entrepreneurs in the Philippines. He has implemented entrepreneurship studies in national high school curriculums across the country. He has taught at various universities and also through programs of companies like Google, AWS, DTI, DICT, and so on. So let's get going with an interesting story about entrepreneurship from Carlo Calimon of Startup Village.
Hello, Richard, and thank you for having me. Happy to be here and eager to share what I can about e-commerce and startups as we know today. So as a quick background, as I mentioned, I've been in the entrepreneurship and startup scene for the past 17 years, having supported many programs and initiatives, which includes the inclusion of entrepreneurship into the national high school curriculum. Over the years, since I walked the talk, and to come full circle as well in terms of my advocacy and my passion, we started Startup Village around 5 years ago. We're a local incubator and accelerator here in the Philippines, whose aim is to develop the next generation of young startups and entrepreneurs by giving them a place where they can convert their ideas into reality, launch these ideas, and guide them through growth. Over the past 5 years, we've supported hundreds of startups through our various initiatives, which includes incubation programs and the like. And at the same time, we're also recognized as the only group that conducts immersion trips in centers of innovation, which we call Engage. And one of these is we take immersion trips to Silicon Valley, where we take entrepreneurs, corporate executives, startups, students, teachers, and the like to Silicon Valley, not just to take photos of the companies that we visit, but also immerse them by having learning sessions, panel discussions with our counterparts from Facebook, from Google, from Pinterest, and so on. And this is something that we do around twice a year for the past 4 or 5 years, except obviously during the pandemic. Right now, we're equally busy with Project Match, which I'll explain later, which basically allows us to support startups further. I don't know if any of you recall the cartoon show, The Jetsons, right? It was a famous cartoon show in the 60s that I grew up with in the 80s during its re-release. And it's fun to see how future-sighted the writers were of these cartoons. Why? Because at a very early stage, around 60 years ago already, right? Concepts such as smartwatches, video calls, work from home, right? Consuming news through your screens was already conceptualized. And that leads us to where we are today, 60 years later, right? It's a clear indication that the world has changed and the world continues to change. And even more so now with the advent of the pandemic, which has forced our customers to change as well. And as we adapt to all of these changes, we understand that the customer's behavior has changed towards being mostly online. During the pandemic, we saw how individuals who were normally, avoiding the use of technology suddenly adapt to it. And statistics have shown that their time is ripe, especially now. Why? Because we have one of the youngest populations in the world. And this shows that the next generation of customers are very young and therefore can adapt to the use of technologies very easily. And slowly but surely, we have seen how customers have adapted to this use of technology because of increased use of internet, increased online shopping, and the use of e-commerce. Now, coincidentally, especially during the past 2 years, we have seen how startups have come up and prospered, whether it's from a marketing perspective, e-commerce perspective, payments perspective, logistics, HR, and even accounting and bookkeeping. If you look at it, all of this comes together as the pandemic has actually fast-tracked the way we have adopted to the use of technology, and startups contribute to this, right? Especially on a localized front. Not all of the companies and individuals will come to go to the bigger players, but also have seen an avenue through startups to come up and reach out to their customers in a more niche perspective. Companies like Dimengo and One Export, Zagana, even Mayani provide avenues for merchants to be able to sell not just within their locality, but also globally as well. Now, in the same fashion, the other support mechanisms or support startups that are needed by these organizations to complete the whole e-commerce value chain has also started popping up. And these are also services being provided by startups. Now, the timing is perfect. Why? Because as I mentioned, the pandemic magnified the challenges faced by MSMEs especially, right? And these startups are providing new solutions, great solutions that can actually help them not just become successful, but even more prosperous even before and after the pandemic, right? Because by matching these startups and MSMEs together, you can see how both organizations actually grow together and become more prosperous. And that is where I would like to share how Project Match, which is a project of ours, is able to do that. Basically, it's a B2B platform, marketplace platform, wherein we showcase the different startups and allow them to be easily discovered by these MSMEs. This project is supported and funded by USAID, but developed and conceptualized by Startup Village. And this is something that we implement right now. And we have seen how by you, our CEOs and company owners can and will prosper by working with these local startups who are equally great, equally capable, and equally competent as these big companies that we've seen around us. And as we go through the process, we see how all of these, both sides, MSMEs and startups, grow together, right, and become more prosperous. So at the end of the day, we as company owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to look for practical digital tools that we can use on a daily basis. And I recommend working with a startup will actually allow you to achieve your goals as we convert to this new normal. But at the end of the day, it's all about learning with technology, the way people live with technology. So with that, thank you very much. And Richard, I'm happy to answer questions that you may have.
Good, very good. Well, the first big question is, Carlo, how do people contact you? Maybe I'll have people, anybody want an introduction to you, they can send an email to me and I'll pass it along. But what would be the normal way people could reach you? Startup companies and so on.
Sure. They can easily reach out to me via www.startupvillage.ph through our website. But also you can find me on Facebook. You can simply search Carlo Calimon and send me a message there. Or email me at carlo@startupvillage.ph as well. But if you want to be matched, if you're a startup or an MSME that wants to be matched, all you have to do is go to www.projectmatch.ph.
Okay, that was the second question. So what was it again? www.projectmatch.ph. Okay, yes. Really? And what kind of companies are these? Are they very diverse? Focused on technology companies? What can you tell us there?
Yes. So the startups that are present in the platform, these are mostly digital and technology-enabled organizations that provide innovation that are practical and easy to use by MSMEs and easily adaptable. But for the MSMEs, we have a variety as well. So the nice thing about Project Match is, since there's a very, very broad base that we can help, we also have a nice selection. From as low as sari store startups to as high as blockchain and the like, we have it there on Project Match.
I see. And now one big thing you always hear these companies talk about is funding. Is this part of the thing, or is that a separate kind of thing?
So the nice thing about it is that the main facet of the matching platform of Project Match is really to match both sides. So basically, the MSME acts as a customer engaging the services of the startup. But also to augment the program, we understand the need for additional resources by both MSMEs and startups. So we actually added a section on Project Match, which is called Access to Finance. And this is where we have banks, microfinance, crowdfunding platforms, angel investors and VCs, grants, and the like present there so that they are easily accessible by both MSMEs and startups.
Gee, that's really good, Carlo. Geez, I didn't know all of this. God. Okay, that's excellent. So everybody out there, this is your chance to really start a business and really move the nation ahead in e-commerce. So Carlo, really, really good to have you again. We want to have you back again for other events in the future, but we're to meet you and hear your story. Really good work you are doing.
Thank you very much, and happy to be back, and happy to be able to answer future questions as well. And maybe bring a startup next time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you again, Carlo Calimon.